Y'all asked for it, so I'm delivering. This is it. The top 7 schools in the entire game as the sun is beaming down on my face. So we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of each school, ranking them from 7th to 1st. We're going to talk a little bit about, like which school has the coolest spells, in my opinion. We're going to talk about which schools are good for what part of the game. We are not talking about the schools in Celestia. We're not talking about the schools in Pigswick Academy. We're not talking about anything other than the Ravenwood 7, the OG 7 schools. We're talking about fire. We're talking about death. We're talking about storm, ice, myth, life, balance, whatever the hell. Just keeping it simple. So, with that being said, let's get into it. And the number 7 worst school, dead last, dog shit school in the game is. You're probably expecting this. I mean, Myth has been clowned on since the beginning of the game, talking about, if you're a Myth Wizard, you're trolling. If you're a Myth Wizard, you're weird. I don't really, you're not weird. I actually do kind of like some of the Myth spells. Minotaur's fire, Stone Colossus, I don't know what that is. Earthquake's pretty cool. He's got the OG moon spell with the weird face on it in the sky. Medusa, Basilisk, it's got some cool spells. The problem is it will always be out damaged. It's pretty close in terms of lives. I can pick up this. I didn't even know I could pick up this poster. Okay, shit. Well, whatever. All right, well, focus. The problem is, early game, the only thing you really get is summoning minions. So you gotta spend all 3 of your pips to actually summon a minion instead of just doing damage to the actual target. That's like, you're wasting time just to summon a minion that might not even do damage to the actual person. You know what I'm saying? When Storm gets to, that 3-pip spell, it has its downsides as well, but it's doing a shit ton of damage. You're going to take a lot of time doing damage to the actual boss, and then, summoning your minions and stuff. It's just like, it's annoying. It's a hassle just to do that little bit of damage, It's not great. So it's coming in at number 7, even though it's got some cool spells. Coming in at number 6, we have the Balance School. Now, listen. Watching this video, you probably all knew that Myth and Balance were going to be the 6 and 7 school, bottom of the list. That's just pretty much how it is. That's pretty much how all Wizard 101 people kind of think about these schools. And it's mostly due to the damage that it does. It gets out damaged by pretty much every other school besides maybe, Frost and Life, whatever. But, I mean, the problem is with Balance, it's not a master of anything, it's a master of none. It's literally what it says. It's balance, but when you're not good at one specific thing in this game, you're kind of nothing. You're just kind of questing along. It takes forever to get through actual fights. It takes forever to get through boss fights, because here's the thing. Balance has, the weakness thing instead of the blade. You put the weakness thing on the guy, he's doing less damage to you, but it's still taking forever to actually kill him. And then it comes down to also, you get Sandstorm, but like fire gets Meteor. You know what I'm saying? Like, pretty much every other school gets an AoE as well that does more damage than Sandstorm. Early game, it's pretty good because you get the AoE pretty quickly. I think it's like level 16 you get the AoE, so that's really good, but then it drops off dramatically from there. You just keep getting more blades, and overall it's pretty boring, bro. Like, I mean, you want your playthrough to be fun. I wouldn't pick Balance, personally. With that being said, number 6. Let's move on to 5. And coming in at number 5, we have Ice. Again, another school that people don't have a lot of good things to say, besides the fact that the spells look fucking awesome. You gotta love, like, fucking Ice Giant, whatever it's called. We'll see it in a second here, but it has some sick-looking spells. Not really in the early game. Evil Snowman's incredibly boring, but Ice Wyvern is amazing. Blizzard, kind of boring, but you know what I mean. After you get past the first page of spells, the spells are awesome. Here's what Ice is, basically. If you want to be a tank, long fight player, pick Ice. It has, I believe, besides Life, has the most health in the entire game. I don't know if it has more than Life, actually. But it does less damage than Ice spells, or Life spells. So it is basically just a worse Life. It is basically just Life that can't heal itself. And that's pretty much that all you can really say about it. The spells look amazing. You get the AoE early on with Blizzard. You get spells that really give you more armor. That's where Ice has more health than Life, but at the same time, Life also gets a 3 pip spell that gives you 400 armor, which you never use. It's kind of dog shit, but it's basically just the worst Life because you can't heal yourself. You just have a shit ton of health, and your spells do no damage. But I love Ice. I mean, it's one of the coolest looking schools in the entire game. I really want to do a playthrough of it. But it's kind of just a general consensus that most people put it on the bottom 3. I've seen a lot of people actually put Ice as the worst school in the game, so it can't break past the worst 3. It just can't. Coming in at number 4, it pains me to say, but my own school, my own flesh and blood, Mulinda Wu, my dog, is coming in at number 4. The damage sucks. I'll say it straight up. The damage is terrible. I just got my Life Blade, and I'm halfway through Croctopia. I was looking for the Life Blade the entire playthrough. Like, why does everybody else have it and I don't? Why do my spells do 300 damage and I don't have a Life Blade to make them better? Like, I have a Life Trap, but, like, I would rather just have that 35 plus whatever to myself. Is it 35 or 25? I don't know. But yeah, Lifeblade took forever to get. I finally got it yesterday. The damage is horrible, but now let's talk about the good things, okay? Oh, also one more bad thing before we move on from Life. The first AoE you get is very far down the road, Forest Lord, obviously, but that AoE is insane. It's so good once you get to it, but no AoE in the early game, so fights take forever too. You can heal yourself to keep you alive, but that also just prolongs the fight even more because you got to spend all your pips. So Life is not the best, obviously, for solo questing. It's not the best in general, but I love it. I'm a little biased. The spells look amazing. The spells look awesome in my opinion. I absolutely love them. The new one that they just added to with the dragon thing or whatever, I gotta go look at it, but it's coming in at number 4 because it's still better than Ice because it can heal itself, like I've said previously. Unicorn, I play with 2 other friends and I just keep us full health all the time, so it's amazing for that. Besides that, let's moving on to the top 3 best schools in the game. Now I have to say, putting Storm at number 3 is definitely interchangeable with the number 1 and the number 2 spot. Honestly, it's up to personal opinion. I'm going to put it in at number 3, just saying that Storm has the coolest looking spells and best looking spells in the entire game. That would be if you could cast them. The problem with Storm is, lowest percent chance for it to actually cast. My friend Rob plays Storm and he rages out because of just the fact that his spells go through so little. You have to spend a turn actually putting an accuracy buff on yourself in the early game until you get armor that has a higher, chance to go through, higher accuracy. Spending that one turn putting that accuracy on is very annoying. Takes, more time out of the fight. And then it doesn't even give you a 100% chance for it to go through. There's still that 5% chance that it will not go through. And I've seen that happen many times with my friend Rob, and it is the worst feeling in the game because you just spent that, it didn't go through, now you have to find another one in your deck, put it, apply it, and then hope that it goes through again, and then you have to you have to start it all over again, and the fight you could just die to that. Honestly, he's died so many times just because of the fact that he lost that 5% roll. Like, it's insane. So it can't go higher for me than in the top 2. It's the highest damage dealing in the entire game, but that's only if you get the spell off. You know what I mean? There's other classes that get the spell off easier and do very high damage too, and we're about to talk about them. So coming in at number 3, but I love Storm. I'm about to do a playthrough with it too. The highest I got with Storm was Croctopia, and I quit because I fizzled so much. I was like, I'm done with this. And number 2, we are going Death. So that obviously means that you know what number 1 is. Fire. We'll talk about that in a second. But here's why Death is number 2 and not number 1. These spells are actually not as cool as I think a lot of people would think they are. Scarecrow is like your 6 pip whatever spell. and it's really not that cool. But that doesn't really necessarily, or I think it's 7-pip, but yeah, 7-pip. But that's not really important. Here's why it's important. Sean, my buddy who played Death for the entire start of the console Wizard 101 and a couple of years ago, he literally said the beginning was too boring because the school was too good. At the beginning of the game, the fact that you can do damage and heal yourself is insane. It's OP, and that's why it is number 2 up on the list. You know, once you get further down, you realize that that's the only thing going for the school. It doesn't do that much damage at all. You know, there's no insane amount of health you get from being a Death. The only thing that you really get is lifesteal, so you don't really need to worry about healing, so that makes it go a little faster. And that's why it's so high up. You don't have to worry about healing. You can just breeze through it, put, you know, damage on. You get Feint. You get the best spell in the game. I just spent all my training points on life to get Feint. So, you know, it's an amazing school, and that's why it's number 2. But there's a reason why it's not number 1. And that's what I'm about to talk about. So, the best school in the game it's got to be Fire. I mean, Fire is the highest that I have ever gotten to in the game. A couple years ago when I actually played on my laptop, I made it all the way to Celestia, I believe, and then I stopped playing because of school. But every single step of the way, they gave me a spell at the perfect time that I needed it. I remember, you know, the damage over time thing with the elf was great. You could just finish him off with Firecat the next round anyways. Great damage. And it has that 5% chance more to not fizzle than Storm, and that makes a huge difference, I've seen. Plus, you get the starter one at the start of the game that gives you plus 5% accuracy. So it's at 85% chance you basically never fizzle. You know, very rarely it happens. It still happens, but not as much as Storm, that's for sure. But like I was saying, you get everything you need on Fire. You know, number 3, Phoenix, you get your, you know, pretty high damage spell. And then number 4, you get one of the best AoEs in the entire game, Meteorite, which you use for Croctopia, Marleybone, like all that. Questing is so easy. If you want to play solo, you're fine. Just play solo. Like, you can do that with Fire. If you just want to play solo, you probably will never die with Fire. The only way you die is if you get unlucky and fizzle a couple times, but I don't really remember ever dying when I played, you know, all the way up to Celestial. Besides that, it gives you Emulate, you know, Immolate, whatever, however you say that, I don't know, Immolate. What you do, you put the minus fire shield on yourself, takes off 30 health from you, but you also put the blade on yourself, does like 1,000 damage, immediately kills the boss, that's it. You know, so you have a way to take out the boss, you have a way to take out the minions with Meteor. It's just a great school. And then right after that, you level up and you're like, well, Meteorite can't kill, you know, the people in Dragonspire now, but now you get the dragon that's also an AoE and does a shit ton of damage too. And then you get another spell, the Genie, who does a shit ton of damage and can one-tap the boss. So you're basically just on cruise control all the way up to Dragonspire. And then, you know, after that, basically what I'm saying is overtime and AoEs, not really overtimes, but AoEs are the, like, name of the game. If you can do that, you can get through PvE so much faster. You know, the spells look great too. I don't think they look as good as Storm. They definitely look better than Death, but that's pretty much why. Fire, if you are doing your first playthrough and you're playing alone, like especially, do Fire. Unless you hate the way Fire looks, then do something else. But that is definitely the best school in the game. Life for life, though, and you know, play whatever you want to play. That's really the message of the video. You can get through the game playing whatever, but some are easier than others. I personally like Life, and I like Storm. And Fire's the best. Okay, thank you for watching.